All right, welcome to the 24th edition of Dads and Ed. We have made it past a year, which is a big moment in all of our lives. As dads, we know that first birthday is the one where you spend way too much money on something they'll never remember. It's not that we did that. In fact, like most dads, we just forgot. So anyway, my name is Josh Allen, humble host of the Dads and Ed program. I am a technology integration specialist in the Omaha metro area. 3 beautiful kids, 6'4", excited to talk about my dad moment of the week, and a beautiful wife, as always. Let's kick it over to Claire.
Hi, I have a wonderful dad named Devin. I have a wonderful mom named Erin. I have a wonderful sister named Gracie. I have 2 dogs, and I have a really annoying bird.
It's true.
Hey,
Yes.
do I get extra points for not calling you your sister's name this time?
Yes, you do.
My night is complete.
You might
Thanks,
get a
Claire.
You might get a Christmas card now.
My day is complete.
If we do one.
If you do one. I'll look for that around St. Patrick's Day.
Yeah, no kidding. Thank you, Cliff. All right. Yeah, Devin Schoening. Okay. See you later. I'm a instructional technology program lead in Council Bluffs at Council Bluffs Schools, and as Claire said, wonderful 2 kids and a great wife who's out doing some Christmas cookie baking, which is awesome.
Nice. Wonderful. Brent.
Nice. What's up, everybody? Hopefully my connection stays true here as I am the struggling technology person tonight. Brent Catlett, Director of Technology from Independence School District in Kansas City, Missouri. 4 amazing kids with 1 on the way here in the beginning of February. My amazing wife, Josie, is handling pregnancy as well as always, and things are going along well. So looking forward to the birth of number 5.
So have we set up contingency plans to have a good internet connection if you would be in the hospital during that time?
Well, that's so I gotta get that on the radar because I haven't scoped out the internet at this particular hospital. It will be a new place. But that's a good call.
I can't imagine that us doing the live show while she's pushing would go over well.
Probably not, but you never know.
You know, run that by her while we're not on air.
Right, exactly. The peanut gallery's not in earshot tonight, so.
And we all know they don't watch, so it'll be fine. No big deal.
Right, yeah.
If you would like to participate, which why wouldn't you at this point, check out at Dads and Ed on Twitter. You can mention us. Use the hashtag Dads and Ed. We're on Google+. You can follow us there. That's where the show originates from. If you miss part of the show, you can go to dadsanded.podbean.com or subscribe in iTunes. You get it every Tuesday morning just by searching Dads and Ed and clicking subscribe. The water cooler topic of the week. We are all sports fans. We have, we started our first show with, if you remember the Glory Days segment that lasted 1 show, you know that we have multiple sporting achievements we can talk about,
Yes.
which is why it actually only lasted 1 show, ironically enough. Over the weekend, Kobe Bryant of the Los Angeles Lakers passed Michael Jordan, formerly of the Chicago Bulls, Washington Wizards, and now owner of Charlotte Bobcats. Passed him on the all-time scoring list for NBA players, moving into 3rd place, past Michael Jordan. As I was driving around today, there was a lot of discussion about the Kobe versus Michael comparison. So I bring it to my esteemed panel. All of us are the same age. All of us grew up at the time that Michael was in his prime. So who's better, Kobe or Michael?
I got to go with Michael Jordan. I think Kobe's a tremendous player and have a great deal of respect for him. But if you just go, it's a couple of interesting points that I want to make. So the first one's probably the easiest, just based on championships, right? If you're kind of going on that, Jordan's 6-0 in championships, didn't lose the finals. That's one point. Whereas Lakers and Kobe did lose the finals. But also, I was listening to a show the other day, and they were talking about how Jordan, when he was playing, was kind of in a different era.
Did we lose Brent again?
Oh.
Brent.
We may have lost his audio again.
Devin, what's your take on the Jordan versus Kobe?
I'm just glad that Google finally figured out a way to mute Brent, so we didn't have to. I would agree. I think with what Brent was saying initially is that I think if I had to choose between the two, I'm probably taking Michael every day of the week. They're both so good. I mean, you're splitting hairs at this point. Kobe's one of the greats too, but I don't know, for whatever reason, I just can't seem to find a way to put him in the same breath as maybe some of those other guys. Some of the Jordans and the Magics and the Wilts and the Bill Russells. I don't know, for whatever reason, I just can't seem to put him in that same category. Although, my gosh, he's a great player.
One of the things that I thought was really interesting as we welcome Brent back, listening to Colin Cowherd today, there was he was talking about how when you think about Michael Jordan, you think about the essential, or there's like 4 or 5 main things that stand out to you. You think about taking off from the free throw line. You think about the tongue out. You think about driving around John Starks and dunking over Patrick Ewing. You think about pushing off Byron Russell in Utah. There isn't that with Kobe Bryant, and that doesn't make Kobe a worse person or a worse player. But what it does is it says, Jordan had his signature moves, and people remember those. With Kobe, it's a little bit. He doesn't have a signature move. His signature moment, one that he brought up that I had thought of is the alley-oop to Shaq.
Yeah.
Shaq dunks it and running back down the court.
Right.
So really interesting, perspective that way. Hey, Brent, are you back? Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, I might be.
You are. Go ahead.
Gotcha.
I don't know where I lost or got cut off, or if I'll stay here.
You were talking about some sort of Jordan being playing in like a different era or something?
Yeah, I think he played in a different time where the game was a little more physical than it is, when Bryant was coming up. But I saw some interesting highlights of, Kobe really emulated Jordan in a lot of ways. They were showing like literally moves, Jordan made, and then Kobe making them. I mean, I have a ton of respect for Kobe, but I still say Jordan's the best. And I could hear some of the things you guys were talking about. I agree with, in the sense of those moments and stuff seemed, I don't know, it's interesting to think about, because Kobe really has accomplished a ton.
Yeah, and the interesting thing you're talking about that is all these times that people have tried to talk about who the next Michael is going to be, and there's no doubt that Kobe's the closest thing to being the next Michael in terms of their game. They play a very, very similar game, and I think that's where the comparison gets really interesting, is because Kobe did emulate Michael as he came up, and he did have a very, very similar kind of game. They have similar body types. A lot of that is very similar. I remember when Kobe was first coming up, he even sounded like Jordan. It was like he emulated not only his game, but his demeanor and the way he talked. So I think that when you compare the two and you think about the next Michael, the next Michael is probably honestly LeBron. LeBron's the next greatest player. I think I would take him over Kobe, but they're not the same player. I think that's where it was always interesting with Michael and Kobe, is they were very, very similar players.
There is an interesting link on the 538.com website, which is a Grantland. I don't want to say knockoff, spinoff, I guess is probably a better word, because it's ran by Bill Simmons and all them. Comparing Kobe and Jordan from ages 21 to 34. If you remember, Kobe started at 18, went to 36. Jordan went from 21 to 34, retired for 4 years, and came back. So really the two overlapping years for 21 to 34. They did a whole lot of, advanced metrics, as they call it. And really, in all offensive and defensive categories, Jordan wins out. True shooting percentage, Jordan had 58%, Bryant 55.6. Turnover percentage, Jordan is 2 percentage points less. So there's a lot of different ways that you can take those two, and Jordan still comes out on top for all of them. So I don't know. I think you're right. It is a little different game. You have a few more teams now, but I would be interested to see kids that didn't necessarily grow up with Jordan, how they would respond to it. Because obviously, we think of everything when we were growing up is a lot better now than what it was then. So, is that are we looking at it with rose-colored glasses, or what?
Yeah, I'll admit now, like, LeBron is he's close to filling. I don't know, this recent move to Cleveland's going to put him back maybe I don't know how long, in the sense of maybe getting to championship level in Cleveland again. I love the move, but he's the one player now that, for me anyway, personally, like, I can't say I get motivated to watch Kobe right now. When Jordan played, every game he played, I stopped what I was doing to watch, because it was just, you never knew what was going to happen. There was always it seemed like every end of the game he was making or at least taking a game-winning shot. And LeBron brings that to the table for me, just from a standpoint of a player that I want to watch, that's so spectacular. And nothing against Kobe, but he just has never done that for me. And I heard a quote from Jordan the other day. He was like, "There's no one that's ever going to, let's stop trying to say who's the next Jordan, because there will never be another Jordan." And I do think I look at it from a rose-colored, glass, that it was when I was growing up. But at the same time, I'm glad I did, because what an awesome time to be, watching a guy like that play.
Well, and is there anybody that doesn't believe that Jordan, honestly, even at 50 plus, that there's not a little piece of him that thinks he could still go out and play?
Oh, absolutely.
I think there's a part of that guy, even at 50 plus, that thinks he could step on the court now, or after a little bit of training, and he could still, put up 20, 25 a game. There's no doubt in my mind that he believes that.
Yeah, totally agree with you.
And I think that's, the other, while we're on the Jordan discussion, Steve Kerr, who was with Michael Jordan when they won 72 games with the Bulls in the mid-'90s. Steve Kerr is in his first year of coaching at Golden State. They are, I think, 21-2, won the last 16 games or something like that. The talk came up the other day, well, are you gunning for 72? And he said, oh, absolutely not. So there's no way. We don't have Michael Jordan. Michael Jordan wills us to do that. I don't know. It's a fascinating discussion. I would be interested also, we talk about what the younger crowd would say. The older crowd who grew up with the Oscar Robertsons and the Julius Erving and that era, what their thoughts on the whole thing are. And that was, listening to Colin Cowherd today, he said that was, there's not video of Wilt Chamberlain scoring 100. There's not much video of Oscar Robertson playing. So,
right.
Are we missing out on a whole generation because we don't have the video? I mean, Michael Jordan, really invented the need for video because everyone was clamoring to see it. And I'm with Brent. I don't watch the NBA all that much, but if LeBron's on, I'll at least check it out. There's very few teams. I'll watch Golden State. I love a good shooter in Steph Curry and Thompson, whatever his name is, Klay Thompson. But there's very few teams that I will actually watch.
Yeah, I'm with you there.
In case you're wondering, as we said, Kobe is third all-time. Karl Malone is second by about 4,600 points. Kareem Abdul-Jabbar is first with 38,387. Kobe right now, as of last night, I believe, I'm assuming this is up to date, 32,310. So that's where that is. All right, moving on. Dad moment of the week. We took advantage. This was kind of fun. Last night we took advantage of going of the record warmth, which is not so much the case today. Now we are having sleep, but yesterday 56 degrees, something like that, record warmth. So yesterday was also baking day around the house, so we had a lot of cookies. So took the kids out last night about 7 o'clock or so and walked the neighborhood to look at the Christmas lights.
Nice.
Not something you can normally do in December, and perfect time to burn off some energy, and the kids had plenty of it to burn off. So that was just kind of a nice way to end the weekend last night. Brent, you want to go ahead?
Sure. I just this past weekend had Catlett Christmas here at the house at our new place here in Independence. So had some good moments with the kids and their cousins, and just really enjoyed, having them all together. And we had them at one point all at the dining room table together, eating, all the kids at once, and it's kind of cool. They kind of just took that space over for a little bit. And you know how kids are. It's kind of a quick eating process to get back to play. So it worked out nice for sake of then getting some adults at the table after. But so anyway, just that time, just kind of some family time here in the holidays, and getting to spend with the kids was pretty awesome, and with their cousins.
Nice.
I think my dad's and Ed moment's going to be a lot like the one last time. I can't remember if it was last time or the time before that I mentioned it, but last night we had my girls' basketball team out to our house, and they made Christmas cookies and Christmas holiday treats. We packaged them all up, and they're going to deliver them tomorrow to hospitals and a homeless shelter, and to a few people in our district, their principal and our superintendent. But it's fun to see our kids, and the kids at the high school that I coach at, they don't all have great home lives, and family isn't always aren't always around for them. So it was kind of fun to have them out and just doing something together. And they cleaned up my kitchen, and two of the girls had never washed dishes before, which I was shocked to hear. So they washed all the dishes, and they were all about it. So we had a great time last night. I think if it wasn't last time, it was the time before. I said they're such good kids, and I've talked on here a number of times about how we struggle mightily on the basketball court. They are good kids, and they're good role models for my daughters. So it was a good night.
Absolutely. All right, gentlemen, we are pleased to be introduced from north of the border. Our second Canadian. Not that the other one's better. We saved the second one. We didn't want to show up with the best and then go to Dean. So we had to have Dean on first. Ease everyone into it a little bit. Alec Couros. Alec, we are excited to have you on the show tonight. If you would, do a quick little introduction about the professional and personal side of things.
Sure. Thanks for having me, guys. Appreciate being here. You can hear me okay?
Yeah.
Yep.
Absolutely.
Yep.
Yeah, awesome. I'm a professor of educational technology and media, and I'm up in Regina, Saskatchewan. And so I've been here at this school for about 15 years. We're just doing some grading tonight, which is how. Someone joined the chat.
Yeah, we'll talk about that later. You'll notice, Alec. So you'll notice we have tech issues every time. Some are not our fault. That one is mine. We can discuss that later.
Well, that was interesting. So,
yeah, I know.
We're doing some grading tonight, so my last tweets, I guess, have been looking at projects that students have been doing. So we're working with pre-service teachers, helping them summarize their learning, get sort of more technology integration into their sort of everyday lives and to understand Edtech a lot better. So really, I mean, the thrust of my position has been to help teachers learn how to use technology a bit more easily, and of course discuss some of the ethics that go along with it as well. So we're certainly big into digital citizenship and identity, which is partly of what I'm going to be talking about today. So, yeah.
We are going to get to that, yes.
Well, going off of kind of what you're just talking about, what's your number one goal with your pre-service teachers as you work with them that you want them to walk away from your classes and heading into the classroom? What's kind of the thing you want them to walk away with and take?
Well, I mean, we've got program goals, which I think are really important. We're a heavily social justice invested faculty, so that's certainly one of our big goals. Certainly, getting students to be able to function and do really well into, as teachers. I mean, I think that used to be with teacher education programs. It used to be much more clinical, just so, students can develop lesson plans and unit plans and make sure that they follow the curriculum and so on. But it's been much more than that. Like, we're developing teachers to a much greater extent, like not even just thinking about, the compassion that they have to have today and the politics that teachers go into. But, my particular area is certainly around Edtech, just getting them to better understand, how not to just use technology as a tool, but to see how the tool actually changes the entire environment. And teens and tweens are going in with all sorts of incredible pressures, around bullying and, using, there's sexting and all these other things that are going on. So getting students to kind of better understand this, to make sure that technology is not just about tools that you get into the classroom, but also thinking about how, these tools really do change our social systems. They change the way kids relate to one another. Changes the way kids create and maintain relationships. So there's so much more to thinking about technology and education than just like, well, we've got a cool survey up on the board and we can get kids to interact. So it's such a rich area right now, and I think it's an exciting time to be in Edtech or just education in general, I think. So yeah, in terms of goals, exploring these new modern learning environments, as Will Richardson calls them, not just the 21st century, but this is modern learning, and it's really has changed, I think.
Go ahead, Brent. Sorry.
Well, I was going to say, I apologize if I'm late / who knows what my connection's like tonight, Alec, but it's a pleasure to meet you here virtually. Have had a chance to get to know Dean a little bit. He keynoted in Nebraska. I'm just kind of curious, changing the subject a hair here, but have you ever played golf against him? And if so, have you beat him?
I played once. I played golf. I'm a horrible golfer. I remember I went with a couple of Texas boys, Scott Floyd and Paul R. Wood, W.O. Scholar and Paul R. Wood on Twitter. They took us golfing, and so it was me, Dean, and those two from Texas. And I remember Paul was just really generous. He bought me these really expensive golf balls. So probably the most expensive. I threw them like every single one when it's just kind of. I came with my golf sandals, which I guess weren't fashionable at the time. It's pretty bad, and you can actually, there's some photos of me online with these huge sort of divots. Basically, there's like huge holes in the greens where I've been trying to hack away. So I'm not a very good golfer. I know Dean's pretty passionate about it every time he gets a chance to get out there, and I think it's a big part of his job and who he is, and he really expresses the idea of fun in learning environments, and you see that every day in his Twitter feed. So, and Dean's only like I'm a 45-minute drive away from Dean, and other people like Kathy Cassidy. There's a really good Canadian connection, and there's a kind of a lot of fun stuff that's been happening out of Saskatchewan in the last few years.
On the bright side, that's probably the nicest that lake has ever been. I mean, it's the most, you really classed up the joint putting those nice golf balls down at the bottom of the lake. So they should be thanking you for upping the standards of the course.
That's right, exactly. I think so. Anyway, yeah, you should find those pictures. They're pretty funny.
So you have, I forget because I got interrupted by some random person in a dark room joining the hangout. Do you have 2 or 3 kids?
I have 4.
4. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, if I added those together, I'd be pretty close.
Yeah, pretty close.
How has that changed, or has it changed? I know because your kids are younger. Has that changed how you think about education? Obviously, education is changing a lot with technology, but how has kids impacted that?
Well, I mean, my oldest is 10, my youngest is about 5 or 6 months, somewhere in between there, and you know, it's quite the range. I mean, looking at my daughter bringing in, of course, she wanted an Instagram account, and they're, you know, I think the average age of social media maturity I've heard often cited is 11 years of age, so that's typically when a kid's going to get it. But of course, with Instagram, it's becoming quite younger. I mean, 9 years old is probably pretty typical for a kid who wants an Instagram account. Maybe not with Facebook, and of course, that's about 4 years earlier than the U.S.'s Child Online Privacy Protection Act, or COPPA. So I think that the social pressure around kids wanting these devices and how they connect and how they connect naturally. I noticed the other day. I mean, I do watch this fairly carefully, and I noticed my oldest daughter had Kik on her phone, but it wasn't just Kik one-to-one. Like, it was basically a whole group chat where her friends get together, and these are like 10-year-olds. And they're just have these incredible group conversations with video and text and so on, using all multiple modes. And then, on the other side of the spectrum, the 5-month-old is obviously not doing a whole lot, but whenever an iPad is brought up, and we've got a bunch of them in the house, you can see sort of as he sort of stares at gonna move him around. He looks like one of those sort of chickens where you basically fixated on the device. But the 4-year-old, it's amazing what she can do. Like, I mean, the 4-year-old, 7-year-old, and 10-year-old were all playing Minecraft, and it's kind of nice because they're all in the same, all in the same world. And then the other day, the 3 of them came in there, and then I creeped in on my device. And they're all like, "Someone's there, a stranger." So it's kind of fun to sort of see how they, kind of reacted to it. But they're all at different experiences. But it's kind of interesting that they're actually creating worlds and building worlds together. And I'm coming in there and setting fire to stuff just to kind of create stuff, throw lava on everything. And just how they get along in that particular way. Then they can go very quickly to building a fort in the basement or something. And it's really, it's kind of cool how they're all related that way through technology, and how it becomes relatable, and it's just becoming such a natural way for kids to interact. I mean, it just does not seem, I mean, Sir Ken Robinson said something like, technology is everything before you were born. I mean, is that how it says? Something like that.
Yeah.
After you were born, sorry. Yeah.
Yep. And it's interesting you mentioned that I have a 10-year-old daughter as well, and I think the reason that maybe university programs are so important now with regards to technology is this idea is, how do I handle this kind of new environment that kids are in? So we have, all of our kids in our school district have access to a Chromebook every day and a Google Apps account, and we monitor our daughter's use quite regularly. We'll check her email, we'll check her Instagram, and we'll check her text messages. And she had an issue recently where a kid had hacked into her account and emailed another kid somewhere and just said, "I hate you," right? And I just happened to find it, and I have some access to our domain, so I did a little investigating. But it was interesting to see that, because I don't think her teachers or her school were readily equipped to deal with that situation. The principal or the teachers in the room to even think about that being a possibility. And so that's why I think it's so important for parents and for teachers to be so much more educated about how kids are using that.
I agree, and that sort of thing. I mean, I just worked with a school board in Calgary, and that was the big thing, is getting parents on board. And the teacher, some teachers are really savvy around this, but one parent who hears it the wrong way in the news, or something, it can really change all of the integration projects that all the momentum that's happening. So there needs to really be a lot of education around, for parents, and they need to bring these things to. And of course, a lot of teachers are parents, as we all know. But sort of that, those hats that we wear are really, really important. But I've seen so many really good projects, sort of general integration strategies in school districts just go to nothing because of some fear mongering or something may have happened with a particular tool. In Calgary, for instance, there's something that's pretty close to Yik Yak, I guess, but it's something related to Calgary. It's called Communet, and so basically every single school has this tool. So in the Calgary area, and then people can anonymously post. So kids have been anonymously posting and bullying and that sort of thing. It goes really, really poorly, and of course the only reaction that administrators have or parents have, for instance, is let's sue these things, like let's get rid of them,
Right.
figure out a way. And then of course they don't want, why are we having bring your own device in schools? So like it really changes everything, and all of those really good reasons that you've had for integrating technology just sort of evaporate overnight.
Brent there, Josh?
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay.
Oh, okay. Okay.
There was a slight break there, but
He must have missed my
He
chat
must have.
post that said, Brent, do you want to go next?
oh, my bad.
We're a well-oiled machine also. Hey, you kind of hinted at this at the beginning, and we talk a lot about the positives of social media. You and Dean were really my first entry into what Twitter can do and the globalness of what Twitter can be 6-7 years ago now. But one of the things that you've been writing a lot about lately, and I'm going to tweet out your blog or your website from the Dads and Ed account here in just a second, but is the romance scams that you have unfortunately been dragged into.
Yeah.
Talk for those people that are watching or listening and have not heard about this. Talk about how you got brought down with it, not brought down, how you got brought into this, and what the hoops you're having to jump through now.
All right. So romance scams, they're usually, from what we know, Nigerian or Ghanan based, and it's basically, I mean, they go back, they're under the criminal code there, under 419 scams, so they fall under those general, I'm the deposed dictator of whoever, and I have millions of dollars to give you, and we just need for you to pay up some upfront fees, and we'll get you these millions of dollars. So these advance fee frauds, or other, they go back to fax messages and that sort of thing. But I guess the latest take on these scams is people will take photographs of people and develop Facebook profiles and Match.com and eHarmony and VK and Ukraine, like every possible social network you can possibly create for meeting people. I saw one on LinkedIn the other day. So they create these profiles, and from these profiles they start to connect with women. There are particular women that seem to be more vulnerable in these cases. I'm assuming this also happens to males, but the only ones I know about are the female ones. And so what they'll often do is get into these, so they'll connect with you on Facebook, get to know you a bit better, and then they'll try to get you into like private messaging, like texting or Kik or something else, where they will spend weeks, if not months, if not years, establishing an online relationship with you. So basically they get into these relationships, and at some point when they've gained a lot of your trust, when they feel that they can exploit you, they drop a bomb. They might say like, I'd love to see you over Christmas or some holiday. Could I come there? I just need, I'm gonna set my plane tickets and so on. At some point they might say that they've lost their passport or whatever it is. I mean, often these crimes are like, $1,000, $2,000. Sometimes they find bigger fish, and they'll take them for tens of thousands, if not more. And so these people are often the victims are very convinced that you're in a relationship with them. Even like they do, it's mostly via texting and images that are shared, and sometimes they'll use like videos patched together. Like in my case, where they've used my photographs or videos, they've actually taken little pieces of me talking online. Like this could right now end up, hi, scammers out there. So they can take this video and use parts of it and kind of mix it enough to actually make me sound like I'm talking with them. Then they'll fake like Skype goes down or something, like little clips of it. And so they'll do some really interesting and sophisticated things to prolong these relationships. And I've seen like the scams have been like the ones recently I've seen. One, I get probably twice at this point, about 2 times a week, I will hear from a woman who's very angry at me, or finds my Facebook account, who's convinced I'm in a relationship with her. It's not a real pleasant thing most of the time.
No.
And then I send them to my blog post, or there was on our national news, there was the CBC, and they actually talked about it as well. So, I have these really nice things that I can send them to that are pretty authentic. And so they often, there's often a period where they first realize that they've actually been scammed out of this money, that all along, like, not only have they lost their money, but they're like heartbroken. And it gets crazy. Like there was a Texas banker at one point, and I shared her story on one of my blog posts, where her son actually found out through a reverse Google image search that I was the real Alec, like that, they were using a different name but my photographs. So he found me doing some sort of talk online, and then this woman, contacts me, and then in her very, very sad email, she says, "Tonight I'm going to go to my office, take down, the picture of you in my office, and take the one off my nightstand." Like, she was so convinced that she was in a relationship with me. And so so these guys really use crazy psychological tricks. From my understanding, there's a book called 419. I mean, they basically wake up. This is their job. This is what they do all day, and they're really good at it. And so they'll have multiple scams going on at once until they just decide, really bad stories. I think there was one story that my daughter was held by ISIS terrorists, and they needed some money for ransom, stuff like that. Like, they get to know your kids, and it's scary stuff, and they're really good at it. And I guess they typically they try to target. Now, this is not always the case, but the highest demographic is, say, a middle-aged woman who maybe is recently out of a relationship. She might have been married and then divorced, and then often, her kids or her nieces or nephews or some sort of family member says, "You know what? You should try online dating." And then when you try online dating, when you've never really been online before, and you get showered with compliments and that sort of thing, you're kind of a sitting duck, I guess. So that's kind of roughly what it is. For me, it's been going on. People have been using my posters for at least 8 years, I think. And the first one, I was in a relationship with someone from Silva, North Carolina, or something like that, and this person went off on my Facebook page, really, really angry with me about how she found out that I was married and had kids. So, that was really a fun one to wake up to. In Barcelona at the time, and saw this going on, I'm like, wow, in front of everyone I know. That's awesome. So, yeah.
Do you think, Alec, is there any way, for you to undo this? I mean, I read a little bit on your blogs today as I was preparing for the show, but I mean, is there any way at all that you're finding to get yourself kind of out from underneath it?
So I don't know. I think at this point, there's not really much you can do. So to give you an example, just today I got a Facebook message from someone who had been scammed a couple months ago, and then she basically is messaging me with, "Did you know that? Guess what? These people that are doing this are now going to be arrested, and they're going to be put 25 years in jail, and so on, and that I've got the ID sent to me from this police officer or police chief in Ghana, and they're going to fly me down there and all this other stuff." And then we did a little web searching, and this is just another scam. This is now a theft recovery scam that they use to get more money from you, that they make photographs around, how they're going to fly you in to Ghana, where you're going to testify against these criminals. And so she was like, the last message, I basically said, "This is another scam. I hope you didn't lose any money." She sent me like a receipt where she sent $3,700, I'm not sure what currency, to, as a sort of an advance fee to get these guys in jail. So she's already committed more money, And she, again, is under this sort of false reality that this is going to happen. So in terms of making this stop, I think it's only going to get worse. I mean, these guys are better and better. This is sort of a really, like, in terms of basic literacy, this is something that we need to talk about. Like, this is something that, you know, adults need to be trained around. This, you know, it's an essential literacy, really, when we start to think about online scams. I mean, these happen everywhere. I tried selling my mother's minivan not too long ago, and I put it up on we have in Canada something called Kijiji, which is sort of like a local eBay type site. And, you know, I put it on, and as soon as I put it on there, I got an an offer right away to pay above the price, but they needed an advance fee. And I'm thinking, if my mother had done that, you know, who'd put it on her by herself, she probably would have, like, wow, I can get extra money. Here's a couple of extra bucks to, you know, a few $100 to handle the processing, because I'm going to get a really good deal. And so in terms of seniors or those who are much less web literate, I mean, again, this whole idea of sitting ducks, I mean, this is something that we need generally to have a much better web literacy. And so in terms of getting out of this, it's kind of I'm in an interesting spot, because I have so much of myself out there that I'm in a place where it's actually easy to find me. If you do some basic things like Google reverse image search, or even if it's not under my name but my photos, you can do some things to find the real me. Whereas someone who has just a few photographs of himself, who has sort of a less developed photograph, this scam could be going on them, or not photograph identity, this scam could be going on about those people for years and years, and no one would find the real you. And so I think those people are actually in some ways more vulnerable. And it's much harder for any of their victims, the victims of these groups, to find their real identity. And so I think that's either you either have nothing, like you've never been on there, and we know that like 37% of kids these days have some sort of digital identity. Like more than 1/3 of kids before they're even born have some sort of digital identity. So could you imagine? I mean, now they're saying about 4 out of 5 kids by the age of 2 have a digital identity. So this is not something like you either go all in or you're done. Like, you manage your digital identity, or someone's going to manage it for you. And I think that's really, really important.
I think it's really interesting. We talk all the time about how technology amplifies technology amplifies behavior. And, you know, we've had these same stories about scams like this for years with, you know, you won $1 million, just send us a check for $1,000 and we'll,
right.
You know, that way we have your bank account, or, you know, then it went to the email and now you have this. You know, has any of this changed your view of having kids online or promoting that?
Well, I mean, the biggest thing, for the most part, like, my message is really, again, you know, what I just said is you either manage your digital identity or you don't. Mm-hmm. And I think, you know, I don't take back the photographs that I got up of my kids online. I think for the most part, I mean, really, if you look statistically, this stuff is safe in terms of, you know, cyber predators, all the other things that we've been really worried about, sexual predation, other things that people used to get scared of, especially in the 90s when we used to scare the kids. You know, we tried to scare kids off the internet. Mm-hmm. The one part where it felt odd to me, right, is, you know, I tracked down one of these profiles, and one of these scammers actually had a Facebook page of my oldest daughter. So there was actually someone had created a Facebook page of my daughter, and that made me feel really. That was something that was really kind of more than creepy. Because I don't care if there are at any given time. I'm assuming there's dozens of them of me, but there was a fake one of me that was connected to a fake one of my daughter, and that, you know, that's, you know, how do you deal with that? I mean, that's just kind of and it wasn't anything horrible, but it's my daughter's identity, and I can't. There's no way to take that back. But again, I don't say that let's not have any photos online. This is just something we have to help kids deal with this, and it's very uncomfortable, and probably more uncomfortable for me than my daughter, or maybe, I think, in that sense. But it's something as parents, and like I really do support this. Like, as parents, we make so many choices for our children, whether they have faith or not, what type of faith they have, what school they go to, whether they go to whatever school, whether they have vaccinations or not. Like, we make so many choices, And this is just in that realm of choices that we make yet another choice that will have significant impact on the upbringing of our children. And I think this is, again, something that we have to think very thoughtfully about. We make choices based on the way that our philosophies of life and learning reside. And I think that's another important piece. So to say that my kid is not going to be part of the digital age, I think that's quite foolish. But of course, going into this with sort of a blind notion that the world is always an amazing place is also a bit of a foolish notion as well.
Well, with that, you know, the scams are so sophisticated now, and the level of sophistication of those perpetrating those is so high. What are some simple things that people can do when they're trying to manage, as you say, that their digital life a little bit?
Well, yeah. So I mean, so for instance, my pre-service teachers, we use About Me pages.
Mm-hmm.
One of the reasons, like, not that you're going to get, I'm not endorsing that particular tool over others, but the thing that I get my pre-service teachers to do is, what it does is it allows you to basically look at all of or consider all of the profiles that you have. So About Me allows you to sort of embed and connect to like Facebook, Twitter, or Tumblr, or whatever else. But I think at some point you need to go through the process of, where is my digital identity, and where can you find me, and what does that person look like? So I think the idea of thinking about condensing or reestablishing or focusing on particular areas, whether it's Facebook or Twitter or whatever else, and just kind of focus on those particular pieces. I really like the idea of getting your own domain name. I love, I've been creating student assignments tonight, and it just, I don't know, it makes me really happy to see certain students have decided to own their identities online rather than rent anymore. It's basically the idea, I'm going to buy my domain, and this is where I'm going to put most of my stuff, and I'll connect from that space to my Facebook and Twitter, and I think that's really an important piece. When you look at like what Jim Groom is doing at the University of Mary Washington, where all the students who leave or who come into that institution at the university basically are given a domain name to basically fill out. And I love that idea. Like that's fantastic to really say this is an important piece of who we are. It's not just about offline and online. It's about augmented reality, and that we have to think about identity. That our identities are certainly going to be are going to reside online in online spaces as well. Then there's the sort of the pessimistic pieces. And the skeptical pieces. I think we have to be very careful in terms of how we interact with people online. And it's easy to believe people for the most part on an everyday basis. But when talking about that idea of amplification again, we know the web does amplify some of the most horrendous behaviors online, and we are more likely to run into someone who's incredibly dishonest in an online space once we put ourselves out there. So having basic conversations around how do we talk to people? Who do we trust? How do we verify their authentication? Like, for a while, my Facebook account was taken down because Facebook thought I wasn't the real Alec Couros. So, I guess the big part of that is, how do we advocate for technology companies like Facebook and Twitter, who own little pieces of our digital identity, to really think about, new ways of authentication, about how do I verify who I am? How do I have a space to basically verify my identity? And it does get scary when you start to think about things like biometrics and do I really want my fingerprints or in my optical, my retinal scan and that sort of thing out there, controlled by these companies? At the same time, I sort of want to know, if I have a Facebook account that people believe who I really am, or there's some way of verifying that. I'm not sure how that works. I think that's a huge challenge, and whoever gets it right is going to be the next, Zuckerberg, who actually figures out how do we actually figure out this identity piece. But I think it's important. And at the same time, up until then, before we can actually do that, we need to have some really common sense ways of figuring out when we're being scammed. So I guess, that skeptical piece, again, is really an important piece. I'm kind of rambling, sorry.
No, you're fine.
Good stuff. I like it.
We need to change gears a little bit. I don't know if you know this or not. Your brother is visiting Nebraska.
Oh, is that right? No, I
in
don't.
April.
Yeah. Poor Nebraska.
Yeah. We asked 100 people, and they turned us down. So 101 was your brother George.
I'm gonna copy that clip and play it. Like, is there a GIF audio version of that?
I actually am president of the organization he is coming to speak to. So if I just wanted to reach out to you, if there is a way that I can embarrass him and you get some gratification from it, I just wanted to open that door right now.
I don't even know where to start. I can send you he just recently got married, and I sent him I read a sort of a best man speech to him, so I might send you the script of that because there's a couple of pieces in there which you might like.
Okay.
I also have some good photographs of him in Smurf underwear as a kid, so that's that's always nice. So yeah, that's good stuff.
I do recall him being at one of your presentations and that popping up, and him oh great, he pulled that picture out. Well, we do a running scroll at the beginning, before anybody talks. So more than happy to put any of that up there. We just love to play out.
Yeah, he'll be good. I'm sure he will. I'm proud of what he's learned from the best, so there we go.
Well, and I realize that this won't make your audio clip that you're going to make, but we are really excited to have him, and he was not the 101st person we called. So
yeah, he gets good stuff for sure.
Jim York, who is a good friend of ours, who is snowed in out in northwestern Nebraska. Also, before you came on, Alec, we were talking about LeBron versus not LeBron, Kobe versus Jordan.
Yeah.
Jim wanted to ask your take on the Raptors this year, tearing up the NBA.
No, I'm the wrong person to ask.
I knew that your brother was into that. Didn't know if that carried over to you, but I thought it passed along.
Yeah. I was watching. I was listening to your piece a little bit before this. I was like, I hope they don't ask me about basketball.
Well, Alec, we do really appreciate having you on. We do have a couple more things. If you want to stick around, we'd love to have you. If you need to do some more grading, we completely understand too.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to pass on to the grading, but it was a pleasure to have me, and I love what you guys are doing. I mean, it's fantastic to have this perspective on it. It's great that you guys get together to do this sort of thing. It's it's fun. But some of the best things that we've done in the past have been, we had something called the Edtech Posse for a long time with some Saskatchewan educators. Dean was actually part of that. A few other people as well. And it was the best part of that was just sitting around and talking. And at the end, even if no one listened to it, it was like I was awesome that we did that. So I always love this sort of experience. So thanks for having me tonight.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Thanks, Alec.
Thanks, Alec.
Thanks, Alec.
All right, app or site of the week. Brent, go ahead.
Yeah, I think we've had this app developer on the show, Tony Vincent, but I thought I'd bring it back up. I think it's worthwhile, and partially also because I wanted to say it is free today and tomorrow, which is the Stick Around app. I know, like I mentioned, we've talked about this on previous shows, but just in case we got a new listener out there, I wanted to roll that one back. Stick Around by Tony Vincent is a great app. It's currently free today, tomorrow. It allows you to build puzzles and share those via Google Drive and other ways to other people. And the students can build them, or certainly a teacher can build it and get it to the students pretty easily. So fantastic app to check out for the iPad. If you have access to those, it's a wonderful app. So I had to share that one again.
Normally $3 too.
Yeah.
I will concur. I absolutely love it. For it to a couple people today when I saw that come across. So Tony obviously is phenomenal. Like Brent said, he talked about it when he was on. So very cool. First time it's ever been free.
Yep.
Devin, who should we follow?
Twitter follow. So I have two tonight, and I'll tweet them out right now. I am going to share both of the journalism advisors in Council Bluffs. Rob Lindquist, who follows the show occasionally, but I shared their their school accounts, TJHS Journalism and ALHS Journalism. Jerry Appel is the advisor over at AL, and I think they do a great job of modeling social media use with their kids, and do a whole bunch of really innovative, great things with their school newspapers and yearbooks and broadcasting groups. So, I'm gonna give a shout out to them. I just love the work that they do.
Very good. Well, if you remember last time we were on, Brent bucked the trend, and we went away from date night, and we're rolling in coming events as well. Even though we do this show twice a week, or twice a month, twice a week. Wow, wouldn't that
be a lot?
That'd be a lot of us, and a lot of failure. We don't get a lot of dates in. So upcoming events, I wanted to plug at the end of January, EdCamp Iowa, which is actually taking place. The closest location to myself would be Council Bluffs, which is also where Devin Schoening will be. So at least 2/3 of us, we will work on convincing Brent to make the icy drive up north for EdCamp Iowa. But January 31st, the end of the month, Ed Camps are free. We talked about them last year. I organize Ed Camp Omaha, which is coming up March 21st. I thought I had plenty of time to plug that on a later show, but I will, of course, get that in here as well.
Right.
March 21st here in Omaha. But Ed Camp Iowa in Council Bluffs on January 31st. Very unique situation. Ed Camp Iowa actually does 5 locations at the same time.
Yeah.
And they mix it up every year. So very fascinating. I know that out in western Nebraska, they're kicking around a similar idea, not exactly the same, but similar. And so I just tweeted out the link from the Dad's Ed account with the website. So absolutely.
Yeah, should be good.
All right. We've come to the end of the show, gentlemen. Another wonderful show. We are taking a little break because it is the holiday season. We will be back January 5th. One thing we did like that we did last year was the New Year, New Dad. Last year, if you recall, we had Chris McGee on, who had just had a little baby. And so Brent, I don't know if you remember this. So when we started Dad's and Ed, we were out on a road trip one day with our friend who's going to be a guest, and we're all excited about Dad's and Ed, and our friend says, well, I mean, it's okay, but I'm not a dad, so I'm not really all that. I mean, it doesn't really interest me all that much. And so then this year we found out he was having a baby, and Steven Sauter has been a good friend of the show, and both on air and off air. So Steven Sauter, wonderful media specialist, high school media specialist out in New York, does some phenomenal stuff with school branding, school identity. They have a quadcopter. Drone that they use for a hobby. They don't use it for educational purposes. They use it for a hobby. He is going to be on January 5th. So we're going to take, I think, an extra week or 2. I don't know how many weeks that is. It doesn't matter. January 5th, that's when we're going to be back.
January 5, just mark it on your calendar.
Yeah, don't count from here to there. It's just January 5th.
Right.
All right, gentlemen.
Great.
It's been a wonderful evening. Thanks to Alec for joining us. Great insight from him. And have a great holiday season. Be safe. Be nice to the in-laws. Have a great time.